Awesome. Portland American. So if you can hear me, if you guys can hear me on Facebook, go ahead and, or if you're on YouTube, go ahead and put what market are you working in? Drop it down below. Let's see where everybody's at. We've got a California person. So where's your market at in the cycle? Are you in an up market? Are you in a down market? Are you in a sideways market? Um, where are you at? Yeah, I know there's some markets that are, kind of crazy right now. It's pretty wild. I hear about some markets being up. Dave Woodson just said he's up. Andy just said he's shifting. Andy's in Miami. I feel like Miami is always like the canary in the coal mine. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but usually what's happening in Miami, it happens in Miami before it happens, at least where I am. I'm in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Ray's crabbing along, he says. Robert's simmering up. He's in Greenville, North Carolina. I really, really like it up in that area. Ray's in Virginia. Also, Paula's in Oklahoma City. Angela's in Dallas. I love Dallas. So how's the market out in Dallas right now? Awesome. Steve's market's slowing down a little bit. New Jersey. Let's see. So guys, Steve's moving up, and over San Antonio is still super hot. So guys, I've started recording here. Let's go ahead and get started. So, for you guys that are listening to this on YouTube and listening to this on Facebook, I'm Jason Morris. My Facebook group's Real Estate Agents That Really Work. If you're not in the Facebook group, go join it. There's a lot of cool stuff in there, a lot of cool conversations, a lot of things in there. Give away a lot of free stuff. We do some free training. Me and a couple other guys do some free training in there, and some calls talking about what we think's going on in the market and what we hope is going to happen. For you guys that don't know who I am, I've been in the real estate market 15 years. I've done a ton of transactions. The thing I've really been good at in the real estate business is going out and getting listings, developing systems to get listings and lead sources to get listings. And I've been successful in up markets, down markets, and everything in between. So that's the very short version of my history and my experience level. So tonight, what I want to talk to you, I want to give you guys a brief overview of pre-foreclosures. Are you doing pre-foreclosures already? Just give me a yes or no. Are you doing pre-foreclosures already? So are you doing them already? Go ahead and comment below. No. Attempted one from Zillow. No. Trying. I tell you what, I think that, hey, Angela, hey, no. Got a lot of no's here. Do you guys want to do pre-foreclosures? Comment below and tell me yes if you do. I assume you guys do. That's what we're talking about tonight, is pre-foreclosures. None in your area. I tell you what, I know I hear that often. Oh, we don't have many in our area. But I tell you what, if they're having foreclosure auctions in your market, then they are having pre-foreclosures in your market. I guarantee you. Michael, not yet. Just been working expired for sale by owners and for rent by owners. My coaching system, man. Thanks for being a part of it. I've got some agents crushing it in there. Congratulations. So pre-foreclosures are a little bit of tough lead. Now we're going to talk about some other leads and stuff, but this was the one that, I promised I was going to give you guys a system with some scripts and stuff to use and some great ideas on how to use them. Pre-foreclosures are probably some of the most elusive because sometimes they're not as straightforward. Let me ask you guys, if you have somebody call you and just randomly out of the blue call you and tell you you're behind on a bill, how does that make you feel? Right? You go ahead and answer in the comments. How does it make you feel if somebody calls you and says, "Hey, man, I see you're 2 payments late. Hey, I see you're 3 payments late." How does that make you guys feel? I don't know about you guys, but yeah, Andy's right. I feel angry, feel surprised, I feel embarrassed, right? If you have a bill collector call you and they say, "Hey, we know you're behind," because most of us, we're not proud of the fact if we're behind on our bills, are we? I feel like that's an American thing, especially during the last crash in the market. I think a lot of people hung on a lot longer than what they should have, because I think there's a certain pride and self-worth in feeling like, hey, I'm paying my bills. I have money in the bank. Things are being paid, right? I think there's a certain amount of pride with that. And when you're not paying those, I think there's a certain amount of embarrassment, right? So, and the reason I ask you guys that question is because I want to put you guys in the frame of mind that these people are in that you're going to be calling. These are not people that are sitting by the phone that understand the foreclosure process, understand the real estate market. They're not as knowledgeable as we are about the real estate market. They're probably embarrassed. They're probably in denial. They probably don't believe what's happening or what's coming. There's a statistics, and I looked for this before we started this webinar tonight, and I couldn't find one that was up to date, but there was some statistics. There was some statistics about how far people are behind. When people get behind on their mortgage, where are they going to be? How long? What percentage of them are actually ever going to be caught up again? So, and guys, you guys that are listening to this, I just got asked if this was a webinar where we're selling something or anything. Guys, I'm not selling anything on this webinar. I'm selling my coaching. I do coach real estate agents. I'm selling my coaching. I did the slide at the beginning. I'm going to do it at the end. However, there's going to be a lot of things in here that are free. They're cheap to implement. They're easy to implement. And I believe that all of you, if you're wanting to work on pre-foreclosures, there's going to be some gems in here that you can take away and probably start making some money or working towards making progress, making money this week. So I'm sorry you've done a lot of webinars where it's been nothing but a selling webinar. Sorry about that. But so Andy said 56% of Miami's on some kind of government assistance. You know what? A lot of places in the country are like that, right? But pre-foreclosures, you're dealing with a seller that is typically embarrassed about the situation they're in, or they're in denial about the situation. You're in denial about the situation he's in. Thank you, Robert. Robert West said I hadn't signed up yet, but I provide a lot of free tips. So, guys, where do we find pre-foreclosures, right? Where do we find them? Okay, we got a couple of options. Cool. Thank you for staying. So we got a couple of options. You can go down to the courthouse and you can research them yourself. I'll tell you, that is the hard way. That's the hard way. You can go down there if you got plenty of time. I'll tell you guys, if one thing I've learned over the years, if I didn't have money, I probably had a lot of time, right? And if you don't have much money to spend, you probably got a lot of time, and you go down to the courthouse and you can research them. Andy said that in his county, some counties do have their records online. You can research them, right? There's a lot of different places you can find these. Some of you guys that are in title states, I'm in a me personally, I'm in a Andy said check equity. We'll talk about equity here in just a second, but I'm in a state where attorney state. I'd like to think all of our stuff is online, but sometimes it's kind of hard to find and kind of hard to figure out. But some of you guys that are in title states, I've heard of title companies that are actually giving out these lists of pre-foreclosures, right? However, it's been my experience when I used to buy the list from the courthouse here, and I'd get it as soon as the list pendants was filed or the notice was filed. They were getting ready to file foreclosure. That's what the list pendants is. However, really easy way is to subscribe to RedX. Subscribe to RedX. They not only give you the pre-foreclosures, they also give you contact information for them, and they upload them into their CRM. So that's the easiest way to get them. And if you tell them that you're in real estate agents to really work, if you tell them I sent you, they waive the setup fee. But like I said, if you don't have any money, you're welcome to go to the courthouse. You can find them there, or you get them from a title company. All the lead sources we talk about today are free. You can go down to the courthouse and get them, or if your county is online, you can probably look them up online. You might have to figure it out, but you go down to the courthouse, or you can call a title company and get them, right? So, but all these things that we're going to talk about tonight are public notices that are filed at the courthouse. So, my initial script, well, the initial problem most agents have is exactly what we talked about at the beginning of this call. Most agents that are calling, there were several programs out there that used to provide pre-foreclosures. I can't think of what they are, but I used to work with this agent, and he called me one day and he goes, "Hey man, I've been trying to call for some pre-foreclosures, that I've been trying to work with them, and they all get angry at me." And I said, "Really? What are you saying to them on the phone?" And the guy was literally calling them, and his script was basically, "Hey Trenton, this is Jason Morris here from eXp Realty. I was calling you. I seen you're behind on your payments." Right? That was his script. Sorry about that, guys. I don't know if you could hear me, but I got some tea here, some lemon and ginger tea I was drinking. But basically his script was, "Hey, I saw where you're behind on your payments." Now, and think about it, we just talked about that a minute ago. If somebody calls you and tells you behind on your payments, you immediately shut down, right? And that's what he was doing. And this is the problem a lot of agents have with this lead source, is the way they're initially approaching them. I've had a lot of success with these sort of leads in the past, especially when the market was down. They were really a lot more plentiful. Then for a while they kind of went away. Now they're coming back. But human nature and the way people respond to you kind of stays the same most of the time. You know what I mean? So if this is your script, you're going to get shut down over and over. Now, we know a couple of things though. We know these people are in denial about their situation, right? We know they're in denial about their situation, and there's two other things that we know too. Well, three other things. I'm going to write it here. Number one is, well, we know they're behind, but we know the banks do offer workout programs. Now, I'll tell you, my experience though is, if somebody gets behind one time with the bank can offer a workout program, but more than likely they're going to get behind again. Statistically, they're going to get behind again. Okay. Number two is, they are going to sell the property, right? We know, now this is two or three. We know that the banks could offer them a workout program, right? That'd be the first option. Number two is, they're going to sell the property. Number three is, the bank is going to sell the property for them. So that's the only three options these people have that are going in pre-foreclosure. They either do a workout program with the bank, get called up. Maybe they're coming in some money and they're going to get called up. It's about tax time. But the bank's can offer them an option. That's number one. Either they get caught up with the bank, they do a workout program with the bank, number one. And number two, they could do a loan modification. I've seen somebody mention that, doing a loan modification. Number two, their option is that they're going to sell their property. Number three, the bank's going to sell the property for them. One of those three things are going to happen with every one of these pre-foreclosure leads. Wouldn't you guys agree with that? One of those three things are going to happen. Now, if number one happens, hopefully, you know what? I hate to see anybody lose their home. I truly do. When I say that, I mean that sincerely. I don't want to see anybody lose their house. I truly feel like in the past, I've been the best option for these people. Number two, they have the option to sell their property, right? If they do number one, great. I hope they save their house and I hope they live there and they're happy, happily ever after, right? That's a great ending. I've had some people, I'll tell you this, forgot hit the lottery. Thanks, Harvey. That's like one in a few million. I feel like these are the three most likely things. But if somebody can save their house and they can stay there, I'm truly happy for them. I've had people in the past that, you know what, I helped them sell their house. I gave them some advice. They went and did a loan modification and they worked it out. And you know what? Later on, they called me. They referred me to a friend. They're really appreciative of the help that I offered. I've even offered to help them go down through the paperwork, right? Because, here's the thing, guys. We see all this real estate stuff all the time. We deal with all this stuff all the time. I've offered to help people fill out the paperwork. I've offered them help fill out the loan modification paperwork with them, right? And I've done that just because I'm a human being and I want to truly help people, right? Number two, if they sell their property, they can probably walk away with a check. Even if it's a short sale, a lot of larger banks are still offering incentives. And short sales, guys, short sales used to be really, really difficult. I still see every now and then I see some posts where agents are talking about how hard they are and stuff. But I will tell you this, a lot of the big banks really have things together and it's not as hard as it used to be. You guys on Facebook, can you guys hear me okay? Comment on Facebook if you're listening there. So but I truly am happy. It used to be a lot of programs for short sales. There are not as many anymore, but there still are some incentives to work with the bank to sell your house if you're upside down. Number three, if the bank sells their house, there's not much I can do for them. If they wait too long, if they wait till the last minute, that is the biggest thing that is the most heartbreaking situations for me. Have been people that I truly wanted to help, had some great conversations with them, and they just waited too long, right? They just waited too long, and they called me the Friday before it was going to auction on Monday, and there wasn't anything I can do. Now, I will tell you, there are a lot of banks that if they do go ahead and list it with an agent and they notify the bank will put a stay on the foreclosure and they will hold off. That is very, very common. But Andy said they can file bankruptcy. Here's the problem. Here's the problem with filing bankruptcy, though, for a lot of these people. A lot of these people are going to file bankruptcy, and they're going to do a workout, and they're going to lose their house anyway. It's just going to go a little bit down the road. The only people that are going to come out good in a bankruptcy a lot of times is going to be the attorney that filed it. Or that's how it is in the state of South Carolina. I've just seen that a lot, too. I've seen people file bankruptcy, go through the process. They try to do a workout. They try to do a restructuring, which is, I think a restructuring is Chapter 13, or it is here in South Carolina. But they don't, it just doesn't work out for them well, So that's really their only three options. Now, I will tell you, the first calls when I approach these people, it's very much like circle prospecting, right? It's very targeted because we know those three things that we just talked about, that somebody's going to sell their house or work out a loan. We know these people, they should be motivated, but lots of times they're in denial. Okay. And it's just a simple script. It's, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, Jason Morris with eXp Realty. I was wanting to know if you or anybody in your neighborhood is interested in selling their home. Would you be interested in selling your house? We've had a lot of interest in your area, right? It's really simple script. That's the script. You're trying to take their temperature, gauge their motivation. Does this make sense to you guys? Now, I will tell you, and we'll get this in a second, I will tell you lots of times, sometimes when you're doing pre-foreclosures and you're going to the courthouse and you're using Red X, right? Sometimes you will get the information for the person before the person actually gets served the foreclosure paperwork. Because, right, Because most of these lead services and things like that are acting off the list pendants. They're acting off the notice of foreclosure, not the actual foreclosure document. So sometimes they haven't had foreclosure actually filed. Keep that in mind too. So sometimes they know they're a few payments behind. I had one time where the husband, I kept talking to the husband. He kept talking about selling their house. He knew they were struggling. Kept talking about selling their house. However, he didn't know that the wife hadn't paid payment in 18 months. And somehow or another, she'd been dragging the bank along, doing workouts, paying on a few months, getting behind again. And he just didn't know. Right? But my first call is always like basically just a, hey, do you want to sell your house kind of a call. It isn't a, hey, are you behind on payments? Sometimes they will say, oh, well, how'd you get my number? How'd you find out about me? And then I'll tell you what, after that, I'm straight up with them. And I got a script here for that in just a second. So, guys, what the deal is with these, at Google, you got to have a follow-up plan with these pre-foreclosures. You got to have a follow-up plan. You cannot approach these. I'll tell you what, if you going after any lead source without a follow-up plan, without a plan of attack, then you're wasting your money, right? You got to have a good follow-up plan. Now, the plan that worked well for me in the past was I got some cheap postcards that were just general sales postcards, and basically I just throw a postcard, throw a letter in the mail. It'd be something general. It wouldn't be anything crazy, and just throw one in the mail like every 2 weeks to them. And plan to do this though. You got to plan to do this for a couple of months. You want to stay in front of them, right? Because at some point, guys, for a lot of these people, reality is going to hit, and when reality hits, you want to be there. You want to be there, right? Now, I like the phone call one time a week. Sometimes you got to get creative. Sometimes you got to just keep going with things. But I like the phone call about once a week, once every 10 days. Now, after you have talked to them a couple of times, that's when you need to get really straightforward with them. You've talked to them. You talked to them last week. Maybe you talked to them again the next week, right? You had a couple conversations with them. They told you how they didn't want to sell their house. After that second call, you've given it a couple of weeks, maybe it's been 30 days since you actually got the lead. For me, this is the point that I'd get really straightforward with people. A couple of weeks after I got the lead, a couple of phone calls, right? And the call would go a lot like this. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, this is Jason Morris. Hey, we talked a couple of weeks ago. About your house, and I'm calling you again. Are you guys interested in selling your house? They said, well, no. Why are you calling me? Well, Mr. Seller, the reason I'm calling you is because you had paperwork filed at the courthouse indicating there is a lien and they're about to file foreclosure on your home. Right? Now, once you say this, there will be a reaction, I promise you. They're either going to tell you, no, we've got that worked out. Fantastic. I just wanted to call you and make sure because, prices are going up in our area and it's a good time to sell your house. If you are behind, it's a good time to sell your house. If the bank takes it to foreclosure, they're going to eat up a lot of equity you might have. There's options. There's options for you. Did you know that there's a workout option? Sometimes I would tell people that right off. Did you know there is an option to work out your foreclosure with your bank? And some people just don't want to, right? But the second time talking to them, but I'm going to tell you guys, these are not one and done kind of leads, right? These are not one call and you list it kind of leads. These are a follow-up plan kind of lead. Does this make sense to you guys? Give me a yes or no in the comments. Yeah, this is not a one and done kind of lead. If you're thinking that if you're looking for a lead source that you're going to call one time and you're going to list the house or they're going to buy one, I'll be honest with you, Harvey, there are no one and done leads. There are none. I mean, maybe if you're on a team and you're working leads that are coming from an ISA where they've been following up with them for the last 12 weeks, maybe you get some like that. They're one and done, but there are no one and done leads. I'd love to tell you guys there is, but if you look at all the sales statistics, it's just not. If there was some guys, man, I'll tell you, it would be it would have made the business a lot different for me. Most of my leads I've taken over my real estate career have been through follow-up. And guys, I promise you, if you up your follow-up game, you're going to up your income tremendously. I tell you guys, that's why I wrote the follow-up day planner, right? You can get it on Amazon. The best place to get it is Amazon. Go to followupmasterdayplanner.com. It directs you directly to it. But your follow-up plan is the key to this lead source. That is the key. If you're not going to follow up with them, you're not going to have a strategy. Now, you can cut out the mail, right? You can cut out the mail. I'm not a big believer in mail. I've done mail with these sort of people just because I knew where they were in their process. However, phone calls are the most effective. It doesn't matter what lead source you've got. Phone calls are the most effective lead follow-up plan. So guys, I want to talk about some other lead sources you can get from the courthouse. So the first one is divorce filings, right? Now, I'll tell you guys, this is over the years, divorce filings have been a great lead source for me. Now, I used these in the past. I'll tell you what my problem was. Now, a lot of agents talk about networking with attorneys, but I'll tell you what, there's a lot of divorces out there that can't afford attorneys, right? I don't know what 50% of the population's been divorced, and I think in the real estate industry it's more like 75% of us have been divorced. But a lot of agents talk about going to divorce filings. You can actually get these from the courthouse. You can actually get divorce filings from the courthouse. I do not know a company that provides them. I've heard about companies that provide them, but I have not actually seen one. Most of the companies I've seen providing them or I've heard about only do it for certain areas. They might do it for your area since you're in Miami, but they don't do it for a lot of smaller markets. But divorce filings. Now, I'll tell you what one of my problems have been with divorce filings in the past is either the husband or the wife, one of them would love me, and the other one would hate me just because their spouse wanted to use me as the agent. Sometimes with these, it's very similar. You got to keep following up. If there's a house involved in the divorce at some point, either if somebody didn't have the money to buy the other one out and they have equity, then the judge will order it to be sold. And that's basically the point that you want to follow up until they hit that point, right? Where it's ordered to be sold. If they can't agree, just keep following up, and at some point it's going to be ordered to be sold. And make sure you send your pre-listing package. Make sure that you give them all your information. Make sure you follow up with them regularly. And if they can't agree to sell it, the judge is going to appoint somebody to make them sell it, right? So divorce filings. So the second one is probate. And guys, all these things, I wrote a book called 53 Strategies to Get More Listings. It's available on Amazon. But probate is a fantastic lead source. Now, probate filings, you can get them from the courthouse. There are a few lead sources out there that provide them. I don't have anybody that I recommend. that I've thought was really good. However, there's a lot of probate going on. Sometimes you got to do a little research, you got to do a little legwork, depending on what your county will give you, depending on what the title companies give you in your area. You got to do a little lead work, and you got to find out some information. I've thought probate in the past was really easy. I've got some great deals from probate. I've sold some great properties from probate. The key is to get in touch with the executor of the estate. That is the person that is the decision maker. Now, I'll tell you what, I had one a few years ago. Sometimes with probate, I'll tell you, it's the same way. You got to keep following up. If there's a mortgage on the property, this is the problem a lot of probate situations have, is there will be a mortgage on the property, right? And mom or dad died, whoever died, they mom or dad died, they had a house, the house had a little mortgage on it. And basically, mom and dad really didn't have any money. Maybe they were on Social Security, maybe they had retirement, but they were on a fixed income. And they don't really have the money to pay it. The siblings that inherit the house, they don't really have the money to pay an extra mortgage, so they end up being really motivated. And the sad thing is, I see this in my market where some of these homes actually go into foreclosure. They go into foreclosure and they end up being lost, where the family could sell the property, split some money, or at least have the money to pay for a funeral and services and stuff, or reimburse somebody for a funeral and services, Probate, the toughest thing about doing probate leads is that is sometimes, I had one a while back that the guy died, and the guy had like 13 kids. He had 13 kids. All of them are brothers and sisters. Some of them had never even met each other. A lot of them had different moms, and it was an interesting situation. Fortunately, what happened was, actually, Andy said successordata.com is where he's got some from. But fortunately, the guy had named two executives of the state. He named a brother and a sister, and I think they were the smartest two. But the other kids would blow me up on the phone, ask me questions about dad's house selling. The house was like about $125,000 house. And honestly, I think that every kid was standing around with their hand out, hoping to get something from the sale of mom and dad's house. But probate is a fantastic lead source. You have to be patient, and sometimes you got to babysit a little bit. Sometimes, for me, I've had some that have been fantastic and they've been super easy to deal with. That I've had some that were super difficult. It just depends on the family. But sometimes you have to go and you have to tolerate the family. You have to babysit the family. But the executor of the state is the only one you really have to answer to. I had one a while back, and the poor guy, he was the little brother, and he was the executor of the state, and he had two sisters. And man, I truly believe when they were kids that they used to beat him up, because man, they would like verbally abuse him. It was unreal. And dad had died, left him the house. Dad had about $40,000 worth of debt on it. The little brother had been paying the mortgage for 3 years while it was in the estate name. And then there was attorney bills and all this stuff, because every time, I did not know this when I listed the house, every time that they got a contract on it, one of the sisters would disagree with the contract and literally go file an injunction and stop the sale. And anyway, it was very, very difficult. But probate is a great lead source. You got to have a good temperament, and you have to it's one of those things too. You got to keep following up. You got to get in touch with the executor of the state, though. That's the key. So eviction filing. Some of you guys have heard me talk about these before. I think this is a fantastic lead source. Now, you're not contacting the tenant being evicted. You're contacting the landlord. You're contacting the owner of the house. These are great lead sources. This is one that you can call them, and you can be really straight up with them and say, hey, Mr. Seller, Miss Seller, Look, I saw you're evicting somebody for your house at 123 Main Street. What are you going to do with that house when you get them out? I'll tell you, at the point they're doing the eviction, they're probably at their highest amount of stress, and that is where you want to catch them for sure. And they're probably sick of it. They're sick of the tenant. They just want to be done with the whole thing. But eviction filings are a great source of great lead source. I don't know of websites you can get them. Andy, I don't know if you know where one is, but or if you know anything that provides eviction filings. But my experience is you got to go to the courthouse, or hopefully your filings are online and you can get them from there. What do you guys think about this? Have you guys ever worked any of these? Actually, Andy said Rebo Gateway. I've never used them. What do you guys think about this? Have you heard me talk about something that you think you want to add to your business? Cool. Yeah, some of these we're going to go down in depth in my group coaching with. I'll tell you, if I had to pick just one of these, I like the pre-foreclosures, but if you don't have a lot of those in your market, I guarantee, though, you have evictions in your market. Right? Eviction filings. Yep, eviction filings. I think that is the if you don't have pre-foreclosures in your market, eviction filings. Now, guys, I will tell you this. With these, these are just this is another tool in your arsenal. It's another lead source. If you can add one of these to your business, right? If you add evictions to your business, if you add pre-foreclosures to your business, right? If you add pre-foreclosures to your business, and let's say that you only get 15 leads a month or 10 leads a month. Maybe you're in a really hot market, you're in a really strong county, and you only get 10 leads a month. Okay, I guarantee you, if you're in a market like that, there's nobody else calling those pre-foreclosures, because a lot of agents, they will spend a ton of money on Zillow, and those are buyers that are literally filling out a contact form on every single website. But a lead source like pre-foreclosures, they go, oh, well, it's 60 or 70 bucks a month and I only get 10 leads. Oh, that's not a good deal. Guys, it's a tremendous deal, because if you're in a tight market, there's nobody calling those leads, I guarantee you. And if they are calling them, they're not really following up with them. But let's say you're getting 10 leads a month. Okay, to call 10 leads a month and follow up them once a week, you could literally dedicate a couple of hours to that and probably get, let's just say on the low side, you get a deal a quarter, right? You get a new listing every quarter. Isn't that worth adding that and committing an hour to 2 hours a week with? Yes or no? Isn't that worth committing? Yeah, it's worth committing. I mean, for a lot of us, what's a deal worth in your market? $5,000. And if you can spend an hour a week and you get one a quarter, we're talking about you spent 12 hours a quarter to work on that lead source. That's over $400 an hour. Andy said they're worth $9,000 in his market. They're worth $10,500 in your market. You're going to spend 12 hours a quarter working on them, right? That's $1,000 an hour. Steve said, same here. Yeah, it's $1,000 an hour you're making to spend 1 hour a week following up and calling the new pre-foreclosures, calling the new evictions. You're going to have more evictions, I guarantee you, especially if you're in a big market. You're going to have a lot of eviction leads. But let's say eviction leads, you get 50 a month, right? Okay, so, and you spend, however long following up with them, a couple hours a week following up with eviction leads. That's a tremendous stream of income for your business, right? Wouldn't you guys agree with that? Just what we've talked about tonight, you could work on these lead sources that I guarantee nobody else is working on them, because honestly, they're a little bit harder to get. They're a little bit harder to get. They're not as exciting. It's not as exciting today to work on eviction filings and pre-foreclosures as it is to work on video or SEO or the next big funnel or whatever. But there's no competition doing it. And you could truly work these lead sources that we're just talking about tonight, and you could build a tremendous business just around working these. So now this one I've liked too, HOA litigation. HOA litigation, for some of you guys that are working with investors, HOA litigation is pretty, and Andy's right. Andy said talk to eviction company. In some bigger markets, there are attorneys that only do evictions. There are companies set up around doing evictions. In smaller markets, it's mostly landlords, property management companies. But HOA litigation, I'll tell you this, homeowner association litigation, especially in a condo complex, prevents financing, prevents easy, accessible financing, I should say. Right? And what happens is, here at least, most lenders won't lend on a condo complex here that has litigation going on without putting down 25%. So that knocks out a tremendous pool of your buyers. So a lot of these people that are owning these HOAs, some of them are truly motivated sellers. They just can't find anybody to sell to. Guys, there are deals centered around HOA litigation. So municipality liens. Have you guys ever heard of municipality liens? Yes or no? Yes, I've heard of them. No, I haven't. Andy said talk to the HOA about who's not paying. I'll tell you what, well, the problem with that is the Fair Debt Collection Act. I've been on a bunch of HOA boards. The Fair Debt Collection Act won't allow them to actually tell you who's behind. Now, you can see if the HOA's filed a lien. HOAs do file foreclosure liens. However, a lot of these HOA managers, if you can get your foot in the door, network with them and stuff. I know when I was doing a lot of short sales, I had a couple of companies that were referring me people regularly. People that they didn't know what to do with, people were behind on their HOA fees. They would call the person for me and say, hey, you need to call Jason. Now, Harvey, the way to find HOA litigation is same way. You literally have to go down to the courthouse and research lawsuits that have been filed. And what you're looking for is homeowner association lawsuits that have been filed against the builders, developers. And you can probably look down through your HOA and find some of these. And then what you want to do is you want to call and you want to circle prospect the neighborhood looking for people that want to sell. Now, municipality liens. Have you guys ever heard of these? Do you know what a municipality lien is? Okay, so a municipality lien, this is like, let's say, for example, you got a property that's in the middle of town and grass is growing up, and it's waist high, and the place is basically falling down. The place is on the verge of being condemned, or maybe it has been condemned, right? The municipality, code enforcement is a great one. Yep, maybe they build a deck without pulling a permit, and the city or county has come in and they filed suit. This happens, guys. This happens. And I'll tell you what, lots of times the reason why the people let it go this far and the municipality comes in and files a lien is because they don't have the money to correct the problem. That's all. I mean, that's it. Nobody really wants a problem, but the city comes in, they fine them. And then in bigger cities, it's worse than smaller cities from what I understand, but bigger cities, you're going to have a lot more of these. But the municipality files a lien, and at some point, the municipality could do a lot of different things. That maybe they could possibly take the property. They could possibly take the property. They could tear the house or building down. They could, there's a lot of different things they could do. And these are all public record. Now, I got one in here. Yeah, oh, here it is, IRS liens. Now, I've got another one I want to tell you. IRS liens, these are public information too. When the IRS files a lien on a property, it's public information. You can go down to the courthouse, you can find all that stuff out. And if the IRS has filed a lien, the person probably doesn't have any money. Now, I'll tell you, sometimes when the IRS files a lien, it's usually a big lien, right? So when they file a lien, lots of times the property might be upside down. However, it's a long process, but the IRS will do releases. They might have to, they're going to have to give up some money. They're going to have to give up some of their equity, but the IRS does file liens. Now, another one is property taxes. So actually, I should put here delinquent property taxes. But I don't know how to spell delinquent. We'll just do back property taxes, right? So back property taxes. So back property taxes, okay, most of the time in most states and most markets, you have to research it in your state. I can only tell you from the state of South Carolina. You have to research it in your state. So what happens is, let's say you can't pay your property taxes. Okay, property taxes are due at the beginning of the year. Thank you, Gary. Gary spelled delinquent for me. But let's say you can't pay your property taxes. Okay, they're going to add penalties. They're going to add all kind of stuff if you can't pay them by the due date. And basically, it's going to be a pain. It's going to be a super pain, actually. Okay, but if you can't pay them by the end of the year, at some point during the year in your state, they're going to have a tax auction where they're going to auction off property liens. Exactly. Look at the tax certificate. Yep. But they're going to auction off tax liens. Okay. All this auction where they auction off the tax liens, all that's public record. So once the tax lien sells, the person that buys the tax lien in the state of South Carolina, could be different in your state, but the state of South Carolina, after 12 months and a day, they can go and redeem the tax lien, and they can actually take title to the property, right? So if you research through the courthouse and go to the courthouse, you can actually get a list of every property that went to auction. Like ours is in, I want to say ours is in December. I think it's in December here in South Carolina. So, or at least in my county, I think it's in December. So Andy just said 2 years in Florida. South Carolina, it's only 1 year. A lot of states, it's only 1 year. So, but in December, they issue a whole list. You can get the whole list. It's public record, right? You can do mail outs to them. You can use GL leads. You can call them, go knock on the door, whatever you want to do. But these delinquent property taxes that are going up to auction, these people can't pay it. Now, once it gets auctioned off, they have a year to redeem it. And here, at least, the only person really that can redeem it is an attorney representing them or the person that's behind on taxes. So during that second year, the penalties and stuff just get more and more and more. I mean, there's no end to it until they either pay them or lose the property. Now, you have two different people you can call. You can actually see who won the bid and bought the tax lien, right? You can actually see who is going to possibly end up with a piece of property. And you can actually see who's behind. So you have two options. You can call the person that's behind and follow up with them basically until they can't redeem it anymore. And then once they pass the redemption period, you can actually start calling, or even before they get to the redemption period, you can start calling the person that can redeem the title. Right? Most of the people that are buying tax liens don't really want the property. They just want the return because they're guaranteed a certain return on their money. And usually it's a good return. I think here it's 12%. It's kind of funky the way you're paid 12% because it's quarterly. The interest is added quarterly. However, guys, it's a fantastic lead source. It's a fantastic lead source. And that's one too. You can be straight up with them and call them, hey, look, I see where you're about to lose this property to delinquent taxes. I see you're about to get the property. Yep, Andy said it's between 5%, 18% in Florida. Same thing here. It goes up the longer it is. But yeah, it's a fantastic lead source. Guys, how do you get in contact with them? Okay, once you get the person's name, once you get this list, if you're going to the courthouse and getting it directly, you don't, you're not going to get a phone number, right? If you're calling tax liens, you're calling IRS liens, you're calling HOA litigation, you're calling evictions, you're not going to get a phone number, right? So you can search the internet. You can use websites like whitepages.com. Andy said truthfinder.com. You skip tracer. There used to be one called switchboard.com. I used to have a lot of luck with it, but I think it's actually part of White Pages. It seems like all of them are pulling from the same database, but it's kind of a funky thing, I don't really like to use a lot of those. A lot of them are pulling from the same free databases. So another thing is you get their mailing address. You can send them some mail. You can try looking for them on social media. Try looking for them on Facebook. Redx has a program called GeoLeads. GeoLeads is $40 a month. It's pretty cheap. You can look up entire neighborhoods. I did a whole video on it that's on YouTube that you can check out. And you can do one-off lookups with GeoLeads, right? So you can find these people, and you can actually search Redx's databases, and they have access to a few things more than what we have. So, and like I told you guys earlier, Redx actually waives their $150 setup fee for people in real estate agents that really work. So, guys, we're going to do some question and answer. I want to tell you real quick, though, my group coaching, everybody's on the call, everybody's listening to the replay. I'm going to give you a code. The code is YouTube. You can go to Jason Morris Group Coaching, and you can save 50% on my group coaching. Now, what all does my group coaching do? What's it about? Guys, I help agents cost effectively set up profitable seller systems. The stuff we talked about, I go in depth and help you set up a predictable system where when you show up to the front door, you know that you're going to get the listing. Wouldn't that be great? If you show up to the front door and you have the confidence to know you're going to get their listing, wouldn't that be fantastic? Tell me yes or no. Do you have a system right now that you have confidence in, that's replicable, that you've done over and over again, where you know exactly what to say when you get to the house? That's what I help you do. Number two, I give you mindset strategies to help you get over the fear, help you keep a positive mindset. I tell you, the thing that robs most agents of their dreams and their goals is fear, and it's their mindset. Number three, I help you with goal and business planning. Number four, you get an archive of all my coaching calls, all my stuff. A lot of calls, we're going very in-depth into systems. We're going completely with scripts, follow-up plan, and everything. Number five, you get access to my private mastermind group. You get copies of my 3 books that I have, 53 strategies to get more listings. You'll get that for free in my coaching program. You get how to be a FSBO master, and you get how to make $1 million selling real estate in the real estate industry. We do weekly live calls with question and answer, and there's so much more. There's more than this. So guys, it's regular $40 a month. The first month's $20 with that code YouTube. The program is month to month, and yes, it will work in your market as long as you work. So guys, here's the thing again, just go to jasonmorrisgroupcoaching.com, use the coupon code YouTube, and save 50% off the first month. So guys, what questions do you have about what we talked about tonight? What questions do you have? Do you have any questions? Do you have anything you're struggling with in your business? Do you see any of these maybe you've tried before, but you just could not get to work for you. So eviction filings, yeah, eviction filings, there's, like I told you before, there's not a subscription program at all. It's not a subscription program. I don't know anywhere you can just buy the leads. I think that, the easiest way to get them, you have to go down to the courthouse. They might just provide you with a list, but it's going to take some work, but nobody else is doing them before. Divorce, man, I've done a lot of divorce sales over the years. Divorce is kind of interesting. For me, I always found that one spouse would really, really like me and really want to use me, but the problem would be that the other spouse did not like me just because their ex significant other did. That was my biggest problem with divorce stuff. It was like, hey, the wife would love me and the husband would hate me, right? Or the husband really liked me and the wife would, I just butt heads with them. So the ones that I tell you, the ones that have been most successful for me, that have been the easiest transactions with divorce deals, was the ones that the judge actually ordered the property to be sold. So they had no choice but to list with an agent. And I had been just following up with both of them until, like basically I was there when they had to do it. Those have been very successful for me. Awesome. Steve's prospecting with Red X using the Storm Dialer. I tell you, man, I really like Storm Dialer. I like that it all integrates and it's all in one thing. I like that it's all in one thing, and I like that it's that there's not a bunch of logins. There's not a lot of things you got to integrate with it. I put my headset on, I'll play some YouTube videos, and I don't know if you know this, but the music, if you're playing music in your headphones with Storm Dialer on YouTube, it will actually will lower the music when somebody answers. So letters, actually, I tell you what, man, I've got a 17 letter expired program that I got to do some editing to, so you guys can use the templates. I used this for a while when I was doing more mail, and I'm actually going to upload it for you guys. It'll probably be about a week and a half before that actually comes out. But you guys get that. Specific letters for the divorce people, I would send more of a general real estate letter. Basically, you can send one of these expired letters if you want to. What you want to do is you want something where you're staying in front of them. Pre-foreclosure is the same way. You can't really send a postcard that says, hey, you're in pre-foreclosure, call me. But I do have expired letter system that I used for a long time that I'm going to upload for you guys. Yeah, the expired letter. I'm not a big fan of mail nowadays. One of the big reasons is because it keeps getting more and more expensive, and it's hard to cut through the clutter. But that also deters a lot of other agents from sending mail. So especially with stamps going up here recently. Yeah, you can do bulk mail. You can do bulk mail, but bulk mail you're going to send to basically a mail route, and I've just never had a lot of luck with bulk mail. Never had a lot of luck with it. Yep, you can send them to people that don't have phone numbers. I'll tell you though, if you're using Onyx, if you're brand new to making calls, don't subscribe to Onyx. Onyx is overwhelming. Get the regular Red X, right? Make calls for a month, make calls for 2 months, then upgrade to Onyx. But Onyx will actually give you a lot of numbers that are hard to get. Now, the problem is they give you all the data. And that's why I say don't subscribe to it first if you're brand new to calling. Get some call time in, because Onyx, you will get overwhelmed with the number of numbers that you get. So what other questions you guys have? What do you guys have you're working on and going through? So guys, I appreciate you guys being on the call with me tonight. I thought it was really fun. There's a lot of these things we're going to be going over in group coaching that's going to be a lot more in depth than they were tonight. Pre-foreclosures is going to be one. I think that pre-foreclosures, for a lot of us, you've heard me talk about, I believe that we're heading for a recession. Just I feel like just politically a lot of signs are there and there's a lot of uncertainty, but I think pre-foreclosures in a lot of markets is going to be a great, fantastic lead source for you. So Steve asked me if I could explain my group coaching a little bit more. So what I do in my group coaching is I focus on, I'll tell you where my business has been, and this will help you a little bit. So I had a really large team. I was doing a lot of transactions. I was doing several hundred real estate transactions, several hundred leases a year. And I got really burnt out. I was working 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. I was really burnt out. I was really tired of it. And what I decided to do is I disbanded my team, right? I went back to being a single agent. One of the things I noticed almost immediately was being a single agent, having a buyer's agent, focusing on listings. All of a sudden, I had all this time. I could control my schedule. I could control what I was doing over the weekend. I could control my income, right? All of a sudden, my income was really predictable. When I had a team, I was really buyer heavy, And anyway, I learned a lot of stuff from that, and I've seen a lot of agents having that same problem. All of a sudden, I went from having tremendous overhead to having almost no overhead, right? So what I started doing is when I started recording those, this was 5 or 6 years ago. Fast forward to today, what I teach agents is those strategies and those things that I learned. How to have a highly profitable business with low overhead, focuses on sellers. That way you can have a business where your income is predictable, your weekend is predictable, right? Your time on, your time off. That's really what I focus on with my group coaching is cost effective lead generating. I priced it there so that it was really affordable so that a lot of agents could be a part of it. A lot of agents could benefit. So, but I'm happy to answer whatever questions you have. Lead gen conversion. Man, I'll tell you something that I learned years ago is that the lead gen conversion is a little bit difficult to really narrow down because I'll tell you, if you're calling a lead one time and you're thinking they're going to list with you, you're probably not going to list a whole lot of property. Now, if you're calling a lead 12 to 15 times, right, you're going to list a lot more properties through follow-up. Yeah, Andy said he uses shout balls. Michael said, same here, great value for Jason's coaching. I'm in his private group, brand new agent following system. Took 5 listings in less than 7 weeks. Man, that's fantastic. But yeah, 12 to 15 times, right? Once you make that 12 to 15 times, you followed up with them, you have real conversations. They probably shared their secrets with you, right? They told you exactly why they want to sell their house, what their motivating factors are, and just everything that you can imagine, right? What you're waiting for is, some people don't list their house right now because they're just not ready. You're following up past that time. Everybody else has quit calling usually, But yeah, I'll tell you what, if you guys want to really increase the amount of income you have and the amount of income you're making, the amount of listings you're taking, increase the amount of times you're following up with a lead before you give up on it. Hey, thanks, Diana. I mean, that is the key. I talk a lot about that, though. I think you should have a plan for whatever lead source you're going after. And you take these lead sources, I'll tell you this, you take these lead sources and you take these lead sources and you just keep following up with that person. You know, sometimes I hear agents say a lot of times, they say, well, I made 50 calls today, or I made 100 calls, but nobody answered the phone. You know, the reason they didn't answer the phone is probably because they were busy, right? The reason they didn't call back from your voicemails, I believe you should leave a voicemail on every call, right? But the reason they didn't call back from your voicemails is because they were busy, right? Think about us, like, in general. Do we call back every person that calls us that we don't know? It's lots of times I have people that call me, and lots of times, you know, a lot of them get my voicemail. I'm being honest with you. A lot of them get my voicemail. And the reason why they do is because when they call, I'm busy. And some of them are people that I really want to talk to, you know. Some of them are people I really want to talk to, but sometimes I don't, because by the time I have time, I forget about them, right? You know, we all have good intentions. We all have good intentions about calling people back, but sometimes you just don't do it, right? And Andy, that's the statistic that's right. 80% of sales come from the 5th to 12th time. Have you guys ever told anybody, you guys that are still with me right now, have you ever told anybody, hey man, I'll call you back a little later today? Right? Raise your hand if you ever told anybody that. Hey, I'll call you back a little bit later today, right? Got a lot of people raising their hand. I think I just had 15 people raise their hand. Okay, so you tell them that, hey, I'm gonna call you back a little later today. Now, we tell people that, and we truly have intentions to call them back later today, right? But then next thing you know, it's 3 days later, and you still haven't called them back. Raise your hand if you ever done that. So why is it we do that as real estate agents, right? Now, we do that, but for some reason we think it's okay when that same thing happens to us when we call a seller and the seller doesn't call us back, right? Now, the seller is somebody that doesn't know us. We tell our friends and family that. And the seller is somebody that doesn't know us from anybody, right? And you have to call them back. They're not going to call you back. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to be the one that have to tell you guys that. They're not going to call you back. You have to call them back. And the reason they're not going to call you back is not because they don't like you. More than likely, it's because they don't know you. They have other agents calling them, and they're busy. That's it. So, guys, I appreciate you guys being on the call with me tonight. Thank you so much. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope the ones of you in my group coaching listen to this. I really appreciate you being on the call. If there's any of these lead sources you want me to go in further in depth with, send me a message. Let me know. Give me a little bit of feedback. That way it helps me plan and helps me plan what you guys want in your business. If you guys that are not in my group coaching, if you have questions about my group coaching, feel free to reach out to me. Send me a message if you have a question. I'll be more than happy to answer it for you. And guys, I'll talk to you soon. Have a great day.